Hi, film addicts. Welcome to the show. Today we have a special guest. We have Ahmet Zappa. Ahmet is a writer, director, producer, musician, inventor, and the radio talk show host of Rock Tales on Sirius XM. And one of my favorite books of his best-selling books is The Monstrous Memoirs of Mighty McFearless. Ahmet, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This is a real pleasure. It's a real treat.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And also, can you let our listeners know where you are tuning in from today?
Hopefully, I'm coming in loud and clear from Hancock Park in California. We're all hopefully like a bunch of other people out there. We're not being COVIDiots. We're hunkered down, and we're trying to be as safe as possible and as creative as possible.
I love that. Yeah, so many people are creating during COVID, but a lot of people are watching TVs and films. So I can't wait to talk about all the amazing writing and shows that you've been doing. But on our show, we are film addicts, so we always want to ask our guests, what was one of their favorite films growing up that you loved?
Oh, that's a tough one. I can I answer with a couple?
Sure.
Just because I feel like they were really influential, and as I look back on my own life, it's the kinds of projects I develop. I do think are kind of related to the stuff I was exposed to as a kid. My whole name is Ahmet Imuka Rodan Zappa. I was named after one of the Japanese monsters, Rodan, not the sculptor Rodin. So I'm it's kind of like in my DNA to love monsters. So any of the Godzilla films made a huge impact on my life. I used to watch them with my dad, and those are fond memories. I'm looking forward to the new Godzilla versus King Kong. I hope that Godzilla wins. I'm just saying that right now. It's bullcrap if King Kong wins. That's no good. But I loved that whole series, but I love this movie called Death Race 2000 by Roger Corman. And I don't think he directed it, but he produced it. But for people who haven't seen the original, it's so good. It's so bananas that they were able to make this flick where they're just, it's an absurd comedy with a lot of death, and it's awesome. It's political. It's pretty cool. So I encourage people to, if they don't know the original Death Race, not with the Jason Statham remake, but the Orig with David Carradine. That's where the party's at, people. That movie was a big influence. And also a film that my father made called The Amazing Mr. Bickford, an animated project. My dad loved animation, so a lot of the stuff I find myself working on is kind of split between a lot of animated projects and then, other kind of monster-related or supernatural film or TV projects.
Oh, wonderful. So, also, well, your dad was a director, right? And you direct, but were you ever inspired by any of the Criterion films that you kind of not influenced, but maybe inspired you to make some beautiful films like that?
Yeah, like mostly, I mean, the ones that find themselves in the Criterion collection that are important to me, like Dr. Strangelove. I love, Peter Sellers. I love him, but that movie in particular is amazing. I don't know if Terry Gilliam's films made it into the Criterion collection, if they did special editions of any of that. But Terry Gilliam is a filmmaker. His visual style, a lot of the animation he actually did for Monty Python, influenced me. But the kinds of films that my father was involved in were they're kind of one of a kind. I think my father might have been the first person to shoot a film because of the budget restrictions on video to then transfer it to film. And this is at a time when that machine had to be pioneered and invented. And that, for those of you who want to check out that bit of surrealism, 200 Motels this year is actually a big anniversary for that film, so you can check it out. It's pretty cool. But most people might know my father for all of his music, but he was always editing and making films. Had a camera in his hand, and this is before you people with iPhones now can just shoot anything. And back then, it was a huge expense to be able to buy film and shoot, and so I kind of marvel at my father's career in many ways. He was a big influence, probably the biggest influence on me, and as a storyteller, because his songs were always really funny. The stories that he would tell me, the way he would, talk to me about the future and ideas he had with technology. So I don't know. My dad was probably the biggest influence.
Oh, that's
I look back on it.
Yeah, and that for our audience that's listening, that is Frank Zappa is Ahmet Zappa's father, and so he was your biggest influence, and that's amazing to have that father, see his career and working for transferring video to film. That's amazing, an incredible feat too as well. And I wanted to ask you this, so because you're a writer director, so I know, is there a film shot in a movie that's one of your favorites that you'd like to share with us?
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, but for I mean, the one film moment that I probably talk about the most is mostly it's accomplished by it's an editing trick, which I love, and it's in a Terry Gilliam film. It's in the movie Time Bandits, in the Robin Hood scene where John Cleese is there's a lineup of all the poor people in Sherwood Forest that are coming to get treasure, but in order to receive the treasure that they've stolen, Robin Hood's band of merry men have to they punch all of the poor people in the face, right? So there's this moment where Robin Hood is like, is that completely necessary? And there's this muscle bound goon that just goes, just makes up some like gibberish kind of, it sounds like German or something, but he just punches this old lady in the face, but they take out some of the frames, so like from when the actor begins the punch to when he's landing the punch. So and the way that they've angled the camera, the punch seems extra fast, and then the sound effects of it just cracks me up even thinking about it. So that is weirdly a scene that I talk about a lot. That has to be my favorite. Yeah. I hope that's a good enough answer, but it's not a complicated shot. It's more, I think, anticipating from your point of view as a director, the physical comedy of the setup and how you're going to make something extra funny,
Yeah, and that's a technique that I think comedy is the hardest thing to set up on camera, because I tried to implement a Monty Python shot in a cave where the night comes out, and comedy is really, really hard to execute, I think, in my opinion. But that's an amazing, I love it, like an editing trick, because Monty Python's so funny. So I want to ask you, so you were growing up. So what young age did you start writing and directing then? Could you tell us how that all came about?
Well, really, it's more of the last couple of years I've been focusing on directing more of the content that I write or produce. So earlier in my, I guess, storytelling years, I think in earnest, I started in animation in my 20s. I always felt like I was a storyteller, but professionally getting paid to do it, I guess, is when I think of myself as then that became a big part of my profession, was in my early 20s. The first a few projects I worked on was a project called Bench Presley, the world's strongest Elvis impersonating private eye. And there's an animation company called Klasky Csupo. They're famous for the Rugrats, as an example. They had a lot of shows in Nickelodeon, and so I wound up writing and making this pilot for them on this original idea of mine that was really silly. And I got to hire one of my heroes, which was a dream come true. I love the actor Bruce Campbell. I love the Evil Dead movies. And I was lucky enough to, definitely lucky enough to somehow convince him to play the lead role of Bench Presley. But there's some, silly things in there. He's this private eye. It all takes place in Vegas, and there's the main hotel that he works at was the Royal Flush. It's a giant toilet themed hotel.
Oh my God.
There's Rhonda, the shrimp psychic from in the buffet. There's a bunch of very, very strange. I love Peter Jackson's early movies like Meet the Feebles and Brain Damage and so a lot of the stuff that my dad liked too. So that was an exercise in writing some pretty absurd content. So I did that, and I was fortunate enough to do another animated project right around the same time with someone who I still collaborate with a lot. This great writer by the name of Brendan Smith. We've been friends for many years. He's also one of my partners in crime on our radio show Rock Tales on Sirius XM. But we wrote a show called Metal Wolf about a time traveling heavy metal band that's trying to find the exact moment in history that rock and roll died. So this is coming out of this moment in time when the grunge was popular, but then everything was dying off and just becoming boy bands and what have you. It's still very similar to the state of music now, even though rock seems like it's coming back. But we were ahead of the curve of like witnessing the death of rock for a moment, and really, I think it still holds up. Actually, this story about Wyatt Riot, Jeff Leppard, Byron Maiden, and Ivan Halen, 4 guys who inadvertently crashed into a Captain Corn Dog.
Oh my
God! And before they blow up. The gods of rock and roll, Lemmy Kilmister, Rob Halford, and Ronnie James Dio, whisked them into the future because the power of rock is strong with these young men, and they bestow upon them the power of time travel, and in their infinite wisdom, they blame Celine Dion for ruining rock and roll.
Oh my gosh! Oh my god!
And then they decide to, if they can stop her from writing the Titanic song, so that if they stop the Titanic from sinking, then Celine Dion will never record that song, thus saving rock and roll. So they crash the Titanic themselves and destroy it in the harbor. And then there's a horrible chain reaction because of their actions. It really messes with the future. So it's a funny show. But that was really the thing that turned me on to becoming a storyteller, and then after developing that, I started writing my first novel. And I should say this, that I dropped out of school in the beginning of 8th grade and missed a lot of school prior to that. and I have dyslexia pretty bad. So it felt like a job I could never really do, but the job I always wanted to do. And so anytime I accomplish writing a script or a feature or develop something or work with other writers, I feel it's just very rewarding to me on a personal level.
Oh, I love that, because I'm dyslexic too, and I was scared to show some of my first writing because before the little red squiggles on word correction.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that, because I'll encourage a lot of people that they can do that too. That's beautiful.
Well, yeah. I mean, in many ways, I feel that dyslexics, how they're having to overcompensate for however they find their way to be able to communicate by putting pen to paper or using programs like Word. God bless you, Word.
Yes,
You know,
yes, yes.
yeah. I gotta say, definitely don't give up. But I feel like you flex different muscles. I feel like dyslexics are more creative than normies.
I agree. Yeah, and so yeah, you were telling us about these funny stories. I love them so much. I can't wait for sequels. And if you ever want to write something about demented Elvis or Elvis, my friend is Joey Segal. He plays Elvis in Stephen King movies, and he does great Elvises. So we got to put you guys in touch if you are interested ever to meet him or say hi. But I want to talk about you have your entertainment shingle, Monster Foot Productions. And can you tell us about, is this one of your first feature films, The Odd Life of Timothy Green for Walt Disney Pictures?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be able to make that with a great partner, Disney. I had an amazing journey with them. I wrote my first novel, The Monstrous Memoirs of a Mighty McFearless, and that's ultimately what brought me to Disney. And they acquired the rights to my book, and through that, they asked me if I had any interest in telling new kinds of stories, and I humbly set up my little entertainment shingle, and I was there for a while, and really the stuff that I worked on at Disney evolved into some pretty fun. That was my college, right?
I love it.
And it felt like a campus. I mean, it was the Disney campus. You would be down the hall with other amazing writers, producers, directors. They're all working on various films, so there's a lot of camaraderie, and I would look back with intense fondness, with my days there. But so when I started my entertainment shingle, the kind of content I'm interested in is telling supernatural stories. I very rarely work on other people's IP because for me the fun is developing your own. And so 99% of the stuff that I work on is all stuff I dream up, and I work really hard to try to bring that content to life. And sometimes I'm more successful than other times. And The Odd Life of Timothy Green, uh, I'm such a Disney fanatic. I really wanted to try and tell a classic Disney like fairy tale, as I have enjoyed some of the live action Disney classics. So I feel really blessed. It's a personal story to me about a husband and wife. If you haven't seen The Odd Life of Timothy Green, it's about a husband and wife that they can't biologically have a child, and when they are trying to come to grips with that disappointment, they decide to write down all of the things that if they ever could have a child, all of the attributes that they would want that child to have. And in many ways, it's bittersweet. It's like having a funeral where you're going to bury your dreams, and what that turns into is they plant the seeds of this magical child, and a boy grows in their garden, and then they have to come to grips with what happens when you get everything they wished for in this magical boy, and then you realize that it's really about preparing them for the journey of being parents, and preparing them for the ability that adopting a child is as important as even having a biological one. And at the same time, my wife and I were trying to have a kid. So there's many beautiful personal elements in that film that are the film is as much a love letter to my parents and the way that they raised me, and as much of a wish at that time to be the kind of parent that I hopefully I am to my 10-year-old daughter now, and my 4.5-year-old.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. And I am the queen of magical stories. So we love anyone with magical powers and kids. So yeah, so that is amazing. So I want to talk about your critically acclaimed and best-selling book. So let's get to this. If you can share anything, so I know our audience is going to run out and buy this book, The Monstrous Memoirs of a Mighty McFearless. Can you give us any hints?
Yeah, I mean the book's been available for a while now, and it's kind of that thing that goes in and out of development with much frustration. But originally started um, uh, Jerry Bruckheimer and Disney. Again, that's what brought me over to Disney. But they acquired the rights to the book, and we were going to develop into a new kind of family franchise. And I still have hope that someday, sometimes it just takes many, many, many years. So I don't give up hope that a film version of the book will see the light of day. But the story is about a brother and sister that discover they come from a long line of monsterminators, and when their father is kidnapped by the king of evil, they go on a quest to get him back. And they find out, even more dark secrets, all done with a sense of humor, but all the dark secrets of their family history, and things that they encounter along the way. They grow. The brother and sister grow closer together, but they always fight like cats and dogs. So they have to lean on each other for their strengths and weaknesses, and the ending of the first book is really like a da-da! Like there's a multiple reveal, but yeah, I like stories that are about the restoration of family, and that's a little bit about what that book is about. Where a lot of Disney movies, actually, a parent dies, and that's like how it starts, and you might think that that's spoiler alert. You might think that that's what's happening with this journey, but what ultimately is revealed in future books and other things of that nature is that the mother may or may not be actually alive or dead. I don't want to give it away, but many fun things there. So that's what it was about, a brother and sister that are monsterminators, and funny characters and funny monsters that the kids have to defeat. And then they wind up meeting a super spy monster named, like, this moss monster named Milgrew, that again, the James Bond of monsters. So
the James Bond of monsters.
Yeah, it's a fun adventure story.
00 creepy, come here.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah. On a little side note, Jerry Bruckheimer actually Facebooked me, and I was like, oh my gosh, but he did tell me he has over 60 projects. So I mean, I hopefully he hears this podcast and go, I've got to do the Monster Memoirs of a Mighty McFearless. So I'm rooting for you. So I know this is going to be done, and all the kids and adults will love it when it comes out. But can we talk about some of your music? Can you tell us about you singing and your music?
Yeah. Before I was taking my writing and producing career more seriously, I was fortunate enough to travel the world in a touring band all over Europe. I got the bug seeing my dad play concerts. My brother and I formed a band, and we made a lot of music. And then I just got into writing music for film, TV, and commercials. I do that with less frequency now. But for all the animated projects I have going on, I write that music. So that gives me the opportunity. I have a few projects where there's cartoon bands or fun songs that the characters will sing. So that allows me to scratch that itch in a fun way.
Oh, that's amazing. So, well, during COVID, you said you've been creating and writing. So, what can our audience look forward to this year coming out from you that they can stay tuned for?
Mostly animated projects. The beauty of COVID, I have a 10-year-old, like I was mentioning before, and a 4.5-year-old, and I get to play with them and listen to them tell stories, and they're so imaginative and creative, and I drew a lot of inspiration from them, and I realized, thinking back on the projects that bring me the most happiness, has been working honestly in the family franchise space. I feel like it's a noble profession to try to tell new stories, hopefully diverse stories, and you know, just to do things. A lot of, and I'm not against recycled entertainment, because I'm normally the first one to go see a reimagined feature or watch a reimagined TV show based on the legacy piece of IP. But I want to see new stories, and that's really what I'm focused on, is bringing to life my own new stories in the family space. So during COVID, I've set up five or so animated projects I'm currently working on right now, and so I'm excited about 2021, and hopefully some of these will go from just not being a pilot, but go into, I have big aspirations that they'll turn into these kind of like legacy properties. My goal, by the time I'm 150 million years old, because I want to live forever with my children, I would love to be remembered as someone who, like a Jim Henson or even a Walt Disney, who made some stories and produced some content that people really enjoyed.
I love that. And that's so beautiful. And certainly your stories and your animation are just a testament to your great content. And yeah, and if anyone wanted to keep up in touch with you, do you have a Facebook page for these animation shows or movies where they can just kind of look at your content?
Yeah, you can probably find some of that stuff. I mostly, just because I've been working so focused on work, I found that LinkedIn has been a great place to connect with other people in the entertainment industry, to collaborate, and to even do things like this. I think we actually connected via LinkedIn. So I gotta say, that's been pretty wonderful in the animation space. I've found some artists and some illustrators that have totally blown me away. And if it wasn't for LinkedIn, I wouldn't I wouldn't have been inspired. I wouldn't have been able to reach out to them, because I wouldn't know that their work exists. So because I sniff around what's happening there, I'm proud to say that at a time where people are looking for work and opportunities, that's a place where I've found 3 or 4 people that I've actually partnered with, and now we're making great content at studios. So,
oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
And I tend to post little things there because it's work related. I don't really go on social media all that much, to be honest. LinkedIn, I just because it's work related, I do go there. But like recently, I'm really, when I say I work on mostly my own IP, I recently acquired the rights to this TV. I'm turning into a TV show, but it's an old toy called Weirdos that was so inspiring to me just visually. Bill Campbell is the original illustrator, but it was a series of toy lines. It's really popular in the 60s. So that's something that I'm reimagining now, and people can look forward to that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, and we're so excited that you came on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, thank you for listening, everyone. See you next week.
Bye.